8 o'clock Eastern time on a Wednesday night. We're talking Florida State football. We got James Coleman on the line from Gridiron Now. This is Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We bring on the best bloggers, broadcasters, writers in the industry. Check out the videos. You will see. James has been joining us. I don't know how long it's been. It doesn't go back to last season. So just during the off season, and it'll be a whole lot of fun to have James on during the season to break down some real football when we see the boys popping pads against people they don't like. But for right now, they got to do it against the guys in the same colored jerseys. So, James, again, as we talk about all the time, you bring us a different, unique perspective. James was a fan. Then he became a player there at FSU from 2002 to 2005. And now he is a media member like the rest of us, doing his best to track the guys and tell us what's going on. So how you doing tonight, James?
I'm doing good, man. Football season is right around the corner. My life's getting busier. It's a lot more interesting things to write about when the season's here.
Yeah, we're just making stuff up during the off season, coming up with all sorts of ratings and lists and rankings, and I enjoy that stuff to a degree. But man, I got to watch some football at some point here soon. So, James, you can join him on Gridiron Now, also Sports Den Live. Just check out Big Game James 36. That's his Twitter handle, Big Game James 36. And then you can track him wherever he goes from there. All right, the boys are out there. Are they in pads at this point?
I want to say today was the first day they started popping.
So there was a little fight. What happened there?
Yeah, when you get shells, you get the pushing and shoving in that good Florida heat, the southern heat. You're giving 100%. That guy's giving 100%. Sometimes, tempers flare a little bit, and you get a little extracurricular, get a little physical after the play, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think you're not competing if you don't get in at least one or two good fights with the offensive line, the defensive line. So, two guys got in a fight. Coach Taggart handled it in a very interesting manner. Making the guys hold hands and walk around the field. So typically the fight cools down anyway. Like, you don't take it into the locker room. People don't let it go that far. But when, that kind of diffuses the situation, it makes it a little bit awkward. So to probably cut down on fights, because the one thing fights do have an effect on is the amount of time that you can actually spend. So, like, working on getting better.
So, yeah, James, I'm guessing that those are the guys that get in the most fights, not because they're bad guys or anything. And like you say, there's nothing wrong with getting into a little bit of a skirmish. It's football. So I'm just thinking that because those are the guys that are wrestling around in the heat the most. They're the guys that are intertangled, woven in terms of just every play. There's contact, there's wrestling, they're on the ground. There's contact for those guys every play, and I got to think, between maybe just things going on that people don't like or take a little offense to, then that's gonna happen a little bit more along the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, and sometimes it's between friends, or it could have been that guy's whooping your butt, or you finally got that guy really good, and he wants to try to get you back. Or a lot of times when I was coming up, and I liked to fight. When I got in a couple of them my freshman and sophomore year, it was because I got the best of a couple of them older guys. And then sometimes the older guys, there's veteran moves. Like, you go full speed to fit, and then you kind of just run your feet a little bit, give the coaches the impression that you're like going hard. Like, it's an understanding. Like, you got bruises on your body. But sometimes the younger guys, all is full speed, and you're trying to make an impression. So when a younger guy goes up against an older guy who's thinking something different, you pop him in his mouth. He looks bad. Now he's embarrassed, and now you guys got to go back and forth. You got to tussle a little bit. So,
James, you started to answer my question. So how mean and mad were you most of the time when you were playing? Did you play mad?
Yes, and then I got a little bit more control. Like, yeah, I was most of us are angry individuals. We come from backgrounds that were physical. So when you think about it, football is an outlet. So when I hear a lot of people talk about, football needs to go away and things like that, I think about my upbringing. Like, it could have been a lot different. I might not be a media member. So I mean, or who knows? But
Sure.
you took it from violence amongst others to violence in a controlled area, in a controlled environment, and you went out and got that, and then eventually you learn how to harness that. Perfect example is the Incredible Hulk. If you watch Marvels, I'm a geek. I'm a comic book geek to heart, and the new Marvel universe, I actually like this Incredible Hulk. I don't know if they can do a whole movie with him, but I like him. And they in the first Avengers movie, they're like, how do you not get angry? Like, how do you control your anger? And he's like, the key is to always be angry. And I'm like, well, damn, that's kind of what happened with us with football. Like you're always, so you're able to control it and cut it on. But when we go up against each other, it's fun. It's in the love of competition, and people start jaw jacking and talking trash. And some people get a little thin skin and can't handle that. And then that's when you kind of go back and you want to go revert to another way. But again, that's brotherly. The other thing too is the people who I tended to like, the ones you have control over a fight are your siblings. And if it's not your siblings, it's the guys you see in the neighborhood every day. Those are like your. That's what happens. You're around these guys all the time. Maybe not 24 hours a day, but for part of 15 to 18 hours a day while you're on campus, you're going to get in a fight. You're going to get on each other's nerves.
Talking Florida State football, we've got James Coleman on the line. You can join him on Gridiron Now and also Sports Den Live. Those are two of his outlets, and you just go to Big Game James 36, Big Game James 36. That was his number there at FSU. Big Game James 36 on Twitter, and you can track him from there. All right. There have been a few injuries here. Anything of note? Anything serious?
Yeah, you got a young freshman, Amari Gaynor, who came in and he I want to say broke his foot. He was expected to make some plays, and that's tough on the injury front because you have such a linebacker position is where you're trying to see some changes get made. And now we took a running back, it's Condre White. He's moved over there to linebacker. He's trying to get some reps, so he's trying to get caught up to provide some depth and be able to do that. But other than that, it's you got some nagging injuries, like you have Marvin Wilson. He's still kind of dealing with that knee injury and it's kind of nagging. DJ Matthews had his back is a little but more of a training thing, so soft tissue injuries. Terry had it, but he came out today and actually looked rather good in drills.
Yeah, James Coleman on the line talking Florida State football. Would like to let everyone know that's on the live chat. We'll get to the whatever is a good comment or question here to pass along to James, and let you know that if you're an FSU fan, FSU fans, let them know that James is on, and let them know when we're talking Florida State football, which is about once every couple weeks. Once we hit the season, I'll do my best to get James on as much as possible, especially during the ACC season and before some of the bigger games. So what we've got on here is, let's see, I was trying to look for, before we get, some of these people are talking about stuff that's on way down the line here. We'll get to it, though. So freshmen, everybody wants to know how freshmen are showing up, if they show that they're ready or they need some seasoning and need some bulk and need some weight. What are you seeing out of freshmen thus far? And I know it's extremely early.
Yeah, and that's the first thing that I've put out on Twitter. I'm still writing articles. I'm getting some things, some preview stuff written, and I'm like, guys, it's like we're in shorts. Let's just calm down. You learn who the real people are when the pads come out. That being said, there are some freshmen who are all right. So let me explain this first to fans who don't know and aren't on Twitter or haven't been following it. Willie Taggart has staggered the practices, so it's no violations. Just the coaches are doing more. There is no rule about how many hours the coaches can work. The rule is how many practices the players can do. So they've got a freshman practice, and they've got a varsity or a veteran practice. So freshman and new guy practice. So to compare it, when I came in back in 2002, they used to have this thing called freshman two-a-days. So freshman two-a-days was when the week before normal camp, and all the freshmen reported, and you got a chance to spend an entire week with your coach and getting up to speed with the pace of the workouts, the offensive playbook or the offensive defensive playbooks and philosophies, what's expected of you in practice, as well as just how to perform in general. Like, you don't know how to do it. You've been in high school. It's a lot different. Like, there's a different level of expectation. Plus, you can get more reps. So the thing that got missed when they got rid of all of that, and they also took away the practices, because it used to be actually 2 a day, because I remember when we dreaded that mess. Like, you went out there 2 practices a day for 3 weeks, I think, if I remember correctly, and that wasn't fun. But what happens when you erase all that, you erase reps, and that's the best thing about the fall camp and spring, is to actually get these guys better, and especially when you have an implementation. So, but you had some freshmen actually rise to the occasion and actually come over to the vet practice. So they're no longer having that first practice. They're coming to the second practice. Treshawn Harrison is one of those guys who has been able to come over. Asante Samuel, again, before he got injured. And Amari Gaynor was one of those guys. Jaden Woodby, but he was there in the spring. So those are some guys of note who have been able to come over. Guys who are you can see flashes are like Robert Cooper, big defensive lineman. Got to do some pushaways with him. They say he's 360, and he ain't 360. You can lie to your mama. Don't lie to me. That's 380. I know 385 when I see it. But when you look at him, though, he is out of shape. He is a little fluffy, but he's explosive, and you can see the athleticism in probably a year in the program. Trim up a little bit, lose some weight, and he could definitely be a force. But you can see that most of these freshmen are they need to like actually get some reps and get better. But I'm still on the Jordan Young bandwagon, even though he hasn't risen to the occasion quite yet.
Got James Coleman on the line from Gridiron Now as I'm looking through the live stream to catch some of your questions. I know somebody had already very early in the chat commented about the Miami game, already thinking about the Canes and wanting some kind of analysis on that, which is kind of difficult to do at this point, but I'll throw it out there. FSU Miami.
Jesus Christ. Go look. This is what I'll tell you. Go dig back through Mark Rogers TV. There's very good stuff. I think about a month ago, maybe a month and a half, me and a great guy who covers the Canes, Cam Underwood, discussed that. But if you want my advice, FSU wins in Seminole Hard Rock Stadium. But Miami's good. I will not say anything bad about Miami. Maybe their quarterback situation isn't as secure as they would like, but I haven't been paying attention to Miami. Again, we're all in practice. I don't care about practice of other opponents. I care.
Hope I didn't lose James here. Maybe he froze up for just a second. We got you, James. I think James froze. James, we got you. James Coleman on the line from Gridiron Now. Hopefully he comes back. Hey, James, you with us?
All right.
Hey, James.
I lost you for a second.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know who lost who there. I think actually, yeah, I'm looking at the return here. But anyway, you froze up for a second. We're good. You basically let everybody know it's kind of pointless to talk about. Yeah, we can talk about the rivalry. We can talk about the old days. But talking about these two teams playing, they've got other games to play before that, and they've got a month of practice before that practically. So, yeah, there's a lot to be decided before we even start talking about Miami taking on Florida State. We're not going to tell you anything that, like James said, he set it up very well. Dig through the videos. That's always a great recommendation. Dig through the videos through Mark.
My man's links, clicks up, man. We're trying to give Mark these clicks, man.
I appreciate
that.
There's
a lot of good work. Like, stop trying to get the answers now when it was in the old textbook. Go back a couple chapters.
Absolutely. That's a good way to put it right there. So, yeah, you talked about the young guys and the practice deal. So what I would like everybody to do on the live chat, let us know what you think Florida State's record's going to be this year and if they're going to win the ACC. Of course, they're not expected to, but just give us 8-4, 10-2, whatever it is, whatever you think Florida State's going to do this year. And people love making predictions and go crazy about predictions. But we will talk to James hopefully sometime before the season starts, and we'll talk about predictions with James. But if you want to throw out your prediction, do that on the live chat. What's going to give you a call or a closer estimation on the DeAndre Francois versus James Blackman decision? What are you going to be able to see? What are you going to hear that's going to make you think one way or the other?
Well, I think it's going to be Francois. I think it's going to be Frenchie, and I think you will all know more next week what it's going to really be. Right now, if I had to get, like, Frenchie is the best looking out of all of them. Bailey Hockman, believe it or not, actually looks a lot better. Probably is arguably ahead of James Blackman right now, but they all have things that look good. The reality is, again, everybody looks good in target practice. So, like, if you go to the gun range and you shoot, you look good. If you've been practicing, you can hit the target very well. The difference is when people are shooting back at you. How well do you shoot? So obviously, quarterbacks typically wear the green jerseys, don't get hit, but you start seeing Brian Burns be the offensive lineman, kind of come around there, put pressure on you, and they start putting more pressure situation type drills. You'll see who really rises to the occasion. And I'm just got to believe that that's probably going to be Frenchie right now. I mean, don't get me, Blackman gained about 20 pounds. Looks good. Still looks like a stick, but a bigger stick. And DeAndre Francois, I saw him at one of my former teammates, Ernie Sims' football camp, and he was actually throwing some passes to my son. And I was impressed, man. Boy, Coach O has got him in the weight room. He's been lifting, and he says he's gained about 15 pounds of muscle, which could mean anything. It could be he gained 5 overall pounds but lost some body fat, but you could definitely tell. And when you see the pictures, he looks jacked, and that's what you want with a quarterback, especially when he had a knee injury. Guys get a little fluffy when they have that knee injury, but he's been staying on point and looking good.
I got my Florida State notes right there. So I'm working on previews and predictions for everyone, but of course James he knows all this off the top of his head and 1,000 times more. But this is for me and everybody in regards to my preview and prediction. The reason I bring that up is I see somebody here, Salty Fowler, commenting about the Florida State running back situation. They are loaded there. They're stacked up with a lot of players there, and with Kalen Laybourne on campus as well. How do they keep all those guys healthy? What kind of roles do you see them playing?
And I just wrote that in my Gridiron Now article, 6 things to look for in August. Instead of just reporting every day, because I'm not a beat writer, unfortunately, I have better things to do than to tell you that elite athletes look really elite in shorts and doing drills. But there are some things, and that was one of the themes. Obviously, we just touched on the quarterback situation, the running back situation. If you rewind back to 2013, FSU National Championship, everybody remembers Jameis, and Jameis had a great year. They set all kinds of records. But the thing that people don't remember is you had a 1,000-yard back, roughly an 800-yard back, and a 600-yard back. And I think you have the opportunity to be able to do this again. And I think these guys are more talented. It was Freeman, Carlos Williams, and James Wilder Jr., all of which got a chance to go to the NFL. James Wilder Jr. is in Canada doing a very good job. Devonta Freeman just got paid or was about to get paid with the Falcons. But when I look at what Cam Akers is doing, Jaquez Patrick and Kalen Laybourne, I think you have a much more talented group with that. Kalen Laybourne probably is having the best fall camp. I think he had the best spring, but I'm a fan of Kalen Laybourne. Like I told you before, that's my life quote. If you see a wide ass open hole, hit that bit. That is great life advice for anything: football, business, relationships. Anytime you see a wide ass open hole, just run full speed to it. But Cam Akers did Dalvin Cook type numbers, and you cannot forget that. He's more of your speed back, your finesse guy. Patrick is your power back, and Patrick made a comment today, and I'll get into how you utilize these 3 here in a second. And Laybourne is probably a better combination of the 2. It's the reason he was the #1 all-purpose back when he came out, in the same class as Cam Akers, but Taggart runs what I call the power spread. I mean, the Gulf Coast offense is a power spread, which is an oxymoron in of itself. The spread is typically finesse, pass the ball, but if you go back and you look at, like, the craziest thing is all of Taggart's offense is on the internet. Like, the Oregon legitimately took everything he did at South Florida and everything he did at Oregon and just put it on the line. I would be frustrated and livid at my media people for doing this, but it's there. And you see tons of sets where they have three backs. They can show you a power front with the three backs, but with these guys' versatility, they can show you a four wide set with these guys, because you can have two of them that can line up in the slot, in Laban, Akers, or even Patrick, and you can have one of them stay back in the pistol formation. So, or you can bunch them together, put those two guys at the wings. You can run a jet sweep or cross buck action, which, if my wing T people would know what the cross buck is. But like and these guys can block. Like, you can get some physicality, but I see. Actually, what Taggart does, before I said I see how many carries. Whatever's working, he's gonna do it. So somebody challenged me, one of my friends who's a Hurricane fan. He said, "What has Taggart's offense done against Power Five defenses?" So he's only played them in 3 years, which led me let's judge the last 3 years. And based on the last 3 years, he's had a crazy success against Power Five defenses, but in a variety of different ways. If he can run for 500 yards on you, he's going. That's what's working. He's going to run for 500 yards on you. If he can throw for 1,000, he's going to throw for 1,000. It's not like Jimbo where you're okay. I got 30 rushes. Wait a minute, my quarterback only has 20 passes. Let me start throwing the ball 20 times. No, it's whatever's working. So we can legitimately see week 1 against Virginia Tech, FSU have 150 yards passing, but 450 yards on the ground. That's 1 week. And then the next week, you can see those numbers flip, which is very difficult for defensive coordinators to have to plan for.
James Coleman on the line from Gridiron Now, also SportsDen Live, and he joins us on a regular basis to break down the Noles. And we invite you to, of course, subscribe to Mark Rogers TV, like and comment as well. That helps out the cause here as we talk college football each and every day. And we're getting you set for 2018 like nobody else. So that's across the nation. And, of course, James with Florida State. Check out his work again on Gridiron Now. The question was asked about the running backs. I'm more intrigued with the wide receivers just because, man, there's talent there. There's young talent. DJ Matthews is a guy that you've touted on here. And George Campbell is obviously a guy that was highly regarded, but has yet to stay on the field. Nooney Murray's the guy that obviously blew up in the Orange Bowl a couple of years ago, was a hero there, had a consistent season last year, considering the issues around him with 40 catches and 4 touchdowns. You got Keith Gavin, another talented player. So sort out those wide receivers.
Yeah. I cover the Jaguars here, and God, it seems like the same exact thing. Tons of talent, tons of youth, very unproven. I would say Nooney obviously is the most proven guy, but we thought Nooney was going to take that step next year. Really didn't. I don't know. Again, a lot of reasons why, but I believe if the wide receiver core is going to be successful, he's got to be either number 1 or 1B, or 2. Let me rephrase that, like a high 2, more like Rashad Green was on that 2013 team. I think the guy to watch for is probably going to be Tamarind Terry. He is a matchup nightmare. He's size, speed. He's going up against all the best DBs, and he's winning. And again, he was getting it was more 50-50 in the spring, and now every time they've done one-on-ones, he's getting the best out of everybody, including probably the best player on the team, Levante Taylor. So you've got him. DJ Matthews is going to bring you a lot in the special teams, but definitely in your quick game. So he'll be your screen guy and your jet sweep guy, your space guy, the one you want to be able to get the ball to quick to make defenders pay. But Keith Gavin, is this year, if he doesn't get it done this year, he'll be lost in that depth chart to guys like Treshaun Harrison, who are going to come in and are going to perform well. And George Campbell had some success, but my man Myers talked a little trash to him, called him garbage. But that's I'm not going to take John back and forth to give me the like an analysis on what George Campbell, I just want him to be healthy. If the I bet if the young man can finish the season healthy, he'll just gain all the confidence in the world. But I think you're going to see those three guys, Terry, Murray, and Matthews, have got to be the guys that really, really get it going. And a combination of Young and Harrison getting in on the field is kind of what you want to do. That way you got 5 guys that could get it done.
Got a bunch of 8 and 4s here, some 9 and 3s. We're topping out at 10 and 2 on predictions here. Florida State this year. Salty Fowler got a little bit more intricate with his. He lists out the whole schedule, then says they're going to go 9 and 3. We've got Dondre, who's a big Clemson fan, asking about the offensive line. And, of course, in recent years, since that 2013 team, that's been the Achilles heel.
I wrote that too. You got to follow. Here's the thing, guys. All I'm going to do is give you the information and perspective, and it's up to you to make your own choice. So something that I've always learned, and this is just the bullheaded part of me and how my education was taught. When somebody keeps telling me somebody is bad, I have to just inherently figure like, well, why are they bad? Let me go look at this. And yes, the offensive line is bad. Actually, it's ironic that a Clemson fan wrote that. Statistically speaking, this is not John back and forth. I went and I thought about who are the best offensive line units, like just from a eye test. Who would I, James Coleman, say I want my offensive line to be like? Bama, Clemson, Georgia, maybe Auburn, guys who are successful, things like that. Mm-hmm. Out of all those teams, there's only one team that is exponentially better from a pass protection standpoint, and that's Georgia. Georgia is under 20 sacks on the season. Clemson is in the 30s. Alabama is in the 30s. FSU is 36. Gave up 36 sacks. So like we're not that. I want to say Clemson gave up 35. Now Clemson played 2 more games, but still, when you look at that, they're not that far off from what FSU is actually giving up. Now, when you look at the reason why FSU, and then I'll talk about why I think the offensive line play should be better. FSU ran a very complicated system in long developing plays. The quick game sucked. So when all you have to do is sit back and you're looking at 5 to 6 second plays, the game was not designed to do that. Hell, you play Clemson and you try to have 5 to 6 second development plays with 4 first-round draft picks, you should have had more sacks. You would think that. In the quick game under Jimbo Fisher was the screen, not quick slants, not things like that. It was just the bubble screen. And that didn't work. So you have offensive linemen who don't get consistent. You can't be a trash offensive line and do what they do in the running game. Like if your offensive line is bad, they're typically bad all around. But FSU's running game is actually really good. They've consistently put out a 1,000-yard rusher. Move forward to that. The speed of play that Taggart plays with helps with, especially if you're getting the momentum, helps with the offensive line not having to pass protect that long, or is do what they do well. So it's a lot of play action. You're going to really press the defense, and the defense is going to have to they're going to have to get off the ball quick, and they're going to have to get back to the ball. So we do a drill where they had 4 plays in 35 seconds. Like, good luck. Like, you better get to the quarterback or you better back the ball down. That's the only way you're going to slow the offense down. So with the good running game, quick play calls, and Greg Fry, every stop he's been at has absolutely changed the offensive line and the offensive production. Greg Fry went to West Virginia. They broke all kinds of records. I think that's when FSU went and broke their records. That year when actually they got a good man, Kevin Steele, fired from Clemson as a defensive coordinator. Then he 70. Then he went to Michigan. I believe, and quickly transformed Michigan's offense. And then he went to Indiana and quickly transformed Indiana's, where they had, if you don't believe me, you're like, it's Indiana, but Tevin Coleman, high draft pick. They also had a quarterback that threw for over 3,000 yards. And the key statistic that stands out each one of those stops, 1 sack per game. That was the average. They gave up 13 sacks. I'm like, on average, each place that he went. For the life of me, as it may be arrogant, I just have to believe we have better talent than the University of Indiana. This is no knock. I know you got to have some Indiana guys go on there, but I just have to believe Florida State has recruited better talent than the University of Indiana. So
it's close, James, but yeah, I think you got the edge.
With the quick game and with an offensive line coach that's probably going to get them a little bit more gritty. I'm not saying we're only going to give up 13 sacks, but I'm saying you should probably see a little bit better offensive line play. And Eberle is good, and they're once they find those pieces, they'll be better.
Noah reminds us here on the chat that like Bobby Bowden said to another head coach in 1993, you know why your program is struggling. You have too many Hondas in the parking lot and not enough BMWs.
Well, I mean,
so there you go. You need the Jimmys and Joes on the field.
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's basically what it goes. I mean, don't get we got that. Just the 3 games I'll give you. I can explain away Clemson, but Clemson was a better team than us. Clemson deserved to win. I can't give you any explanation. Alabama beat us. They whipped us in one phase of the ball really well, too. Defense and special teams absolutely obliterated us. And I got nothing for Boston College. That game, that's when I knew Jimbo lost this team, was Boston College. I saw those guys quit. Miami comes down to Tavares McFadden giving a damn and just making a play, being a pro prospect and making a play, or the defense making one stop and you win the Miami game. Not taking away anything Miami did. It was incredible how they came back both times that James Blackman led them to score. Miami's offense came back and drove. That was incredible. But if the defense makes one play, you win that game. I'm trying to think. Louisville, why? Line up in the I formation and just hand the ball off, and then you win that game. You're in a position to win that game. North Carolina State, you're in position, make a stop. You're in position to win the game. So, I mean, this isn't a trash team that's coming back. This is a team that just didn't make plays. And what we talk about is a lack of accountability. Now, that's all they preached in Taggart. And what Taggart's done is make hires that are traditionally known for accountability. Hell, he hired Coach Andrews, who's one of my favorite old coaches, who I believe his name is Swahili for accountability and gassers. Because if you don't do what he tells you to do, you're going to be in phenomenal shape. And Coach O, his strength and conditioning coach, is probably one of the meanest strength and conditioning coaches in America. And I love it. So if we see guys being held accountable, and you can tell by the way the plays go, when you give up a play, big play, when Coach Andrews was in his prime, and you're going to hear it before you get to the sideline. Coach Andrews is going to come and meet you where you are at and cuss you the hell out. And I say the hell, he would have said other words. With sunflower seeds spitting into your visor.
That's a Mickey Andrews, right?
Mickey Andrews. So, you got young coaches that are like that and old school coaches who are like that. And I just believe that was really, when you see games like that, when you see consistent losses on talented teams, it's traditionally just a lack of accountability.
Yeah, that Boston College game is tough to figure out. And BC's pretty good, but they've got top 35, 40 talent, and FSU has top 10 talent. And it wasn't
fall asleep. How do you fall asleep in the middle? And that's Tony Baselli's son. So this ain't no just random kid. This kid has been around football his whole life. And I see you sleep on the sideline of an away game. I'm just like, that's just disrespectful. I'd have been terrified to get on the plane if I'd have did that.
Absolutely. And, it wasn't like BC just had a master game plan and they squeezed the air out of the ball and they won 19-17 on a last-second field goal. That was a butt kicking in that one, 35-3. Salty, our guy Salty on here says Fisher checked out, stopped actively recruiting kids after week 2. Grayson High School alone shut down communication with Papo and Morris. 2 top 50 kids alone getting out of the buyout was a blessing.
Yes, yes, and no. I'm excited about Taggart. Don't get me wrong. But I'm not gonna like. I think it was good for Jimbo to leave for a variety of reasons, and not just because he quit coaching. I just believe his heart wasn't in it. He had a lot of personal issues going on, and then when you get approached with that kind of money and those kind of resources, it's like, for example, like this, Mark, we're having this conversation, and I don't think I fit the mold for ESPN. But if FS1 came in and said, James, I'm going to give you $750,000, but you can't do these other things, I'm going to tell you, Mark, hey man, I appreciate you, man. We can talk on Twitter, but
Sure.
I got to go make this bread. Like,
no doubt.
I can't turn it down. If I told you that respectfully, that would be dope. But like, I think it's the way he left is part of the reason why fans are upset. But Jimbo is a good coach. He's an arrogant coach, and he's got to learn to adapt. He's going to have to learn to adapt in the SEC West. And with that kind of money, it brings a lot of different pressures. Recruiting wise, I think he didn't know what he wanted to do, so he couldn't put his whole heart into it. And you can see, if you believe what quarterbacks like Justin Fields said, that Jimbo said, I'm going to go to Texas A&M, come with me. If you believe that, then that just lets you know. But I don't care. Taggart came into this class from the 60th ranked class to the 11th ranked class, and with a couple misses that if he had got those, it probably would have been a top 10 class. Right now, I think we're number 8 in 247 arrivals, one of those, but it's a top 10 class in both of them. And we're in great shape for Kayvon Thibodeau, Nakobe Dean, a couple other top 5-star guys. Like, to me, you missed on the Grayson kids, but you possibly got some better kids. And this is no knock to those young men. It's part of the reason why I stay out of recruiting, because I think recruiting gets kind of weird. But I don't care where a young man goes to college. I just care that the young man goes to college and gets a chance to make money after his college career. But I look at what Taggart's done. I was at Saturday Night Live, his recruiting event, and I see the energy. I see how the coaches recruit. I see how the young men vibe with the coaches and the players. And I believe that in a couple of years, if he's able to coach on the field the same way that he recruits, you're going to start seeing FSU. You're going to see a Kirby type effect at FSU. And I mean, Kirby Smart doing at Georgia, which is amazing. I joke about Kirby and bags. Guys, don't crush me. Kirby was a GA at Florida State when I was at. I want Kirby to be successful in every game except for when he plays FSU.
All right. We got William Lee asking how good the Florida State coaching staff is on game day. Well, let's understand here, they haven't coached a game yet. So that's a little bit difficult, maybe, unless James got something out of the
I don't know. I mean, the only real way you can really look at him is look at what he did at South Florida. I mean, again, with subpar talent. Again, I think he lost 2 games his last year there, and one was the FSU.
Yep.
We were pretty good that year. And I forgot who else he lost to. But bottom line is that he made some really good adjustments. And outside of a Dalvin Cook record-breaking performance, South Florida might have won that game. When you look at what he did with Oregon without his pieces in place, he went on a 4-1 run before his quarterback got hurt. When his quarterback got healthy, he went back on a run. They probably would have competed. Not saying they would have won the Pac-12, but you would have probably heard them competing for the Pac-12 if my man is not actually doesn't lose his starting quarterback. So I don't know. We'll see. There's too many question marks. Like a lot of people don't like that Florida State fans are this excited and feel like, well, we're used to winning. We like the energy. Relax. His under 500 record. Really, if you don't want to put that in context, then all you're doing is trolling, and you don't want to have an intelligent conversation. Obviously, the man is a good coach. If he wasn't a good coach, he wouldn't have been at Oregon first and foremost. He wouldn't have been considered for Florida, and he wouldn't be at Florida State.
And they lost
He beat out a lot of good coaches. So, like, something that I try to tell people all the time is he beat out Dan Mullen for the job at Oregon. So if you're a Florida fan and you don't think he's a good coach, well, he beat your coach out at Oregon. So again, just keep it respectful until we actually see what actually happens. I'm going to give him all smiles and Hallmark cards until he proves me wrong. So you may see some really good reports. Week 5, I wrote what I felt about Jimbo to the point where it got me in trouble. I will write what I feel about it because at the end of the day, I played at that stadium. Can't nobody take my stripes away from me.
Absolutely. Can't imagine. I'm going to have to look back into the archives to see what you wrote about Jimbo halfway through the season last year.
Pretty rough. I was depressed. It was pretty fiery. Yeah. I mean, I call it. It's called it like you see it. Now it's easy to do it now, but I don't. Again, this is no knock on you because I'm not a journalist. I am a guy who played this game. Who, for whatever reason, when I write stuff, people click on it and they listen to the opinion. When I'm watching it from first. When I'm watching the game, like, how do I see it as a player? How are you going to attack this team? How is this team going to win? So, like, when I'm writing my previews for our offense, I'm like, how are we going to beat this offense? When I'm writing it from a defense, I actually ask questions to my friends who play defense, and we're trying to figure out how is our defense really matching up? What are some schematic things that we're going to see? I'm not regurgitating info. I don't need anybody to tell me outside of some people that I trust how to play the game of football. I played it for a long time. And then when I watch the game, I'm watching the game looking at, well, wow, that was a mistake. So what you think was a good play might not have been a good play in real life to a football player. It's good life to a commentator, and I have no knock for it. And it's a good play to a fan, but it might not be the best play. And what you think is a bad play call, actually, in theory, it was the players messed up. Like I tell people all the time, sometimes a play doesn't work on offense, not because it wasn't a good schema. It's because that guy's 6'5", 275 pounds and runs a 4.5. Like, it's hard to beat that sometimes. You got to understand where you're at. But when Jaquez Patrick was tiptoeing, I said he was tiptoeing, and I called it out. When I wrote when Jimbo first got upset about his things is when I wrote that his offense is entirely too quarterback dependent. And I broke it all the way down. This is why we lost the game. You got a true freshman in his first game against North Carolina State that's throwing the ball 45 pass attempts. In his first game, he's only taken a week of 1 reps. Why in the hell would you put him in that kind of situation? Again, if you listen to our Dope Boys podcast, me and Geno Hayes, I told him they got 4 draft eligible defensive linemen. Why in the hell would you go to their strongest suit? You're going to drop back and I told everybody about Nick Chubb. Well, the world got a chance to see who the hell Nick Chubb was. And Nick Chubb probably I hope he wrote Jimbo a nice thank you letter for the contract that he got, because that's a big part of the reason.
Good stuff from James Coleman from Gridiron Now. And we actually have somebody online, Kid. I've never heard your name before or seen any comments, so welcome to Mark Rogers TV first and foremost, but it will also let you know when you're asking, who is this dude? Want to look him up? Well, you can look him up on Twitter, Big Game James 36, Big Game James 36. He writes for Gridiron Now, Florida State fullback from 2002 to 2005 on some pretty good teams. So that's who James is. So, yeah, look him up. Look up his work there. As you can tell from just the analysis of the last couple minutes, he knows what he's talking about. Obviously played the game and has played with tons of great college and NFL players. All right. Jackass is overrated. Anytime anybody says somebody's overrated or underrated, I don't know who they're comparing him to or where they heard how they're rated. So
me too. I mean, he's a number 2 running back, like that had like 800 yards rushing last year. I don't understand. Like, I mean, I can see if he was a starting running back, maybe, but like, he may even be our number 3 running back. Like, I don't see how you could be overrated. Like, I mean, who is there? Somebody else? I guess they would have to tell me who in the running back roster is on who they feel is better that can fill that role. We don't have another big back. Zakondre White is now a linebacker. So is it Rasul? I know he's got elite speed, but I don't know. We don't know what he can really do in terms of being a running back per se. So I mean, it's a crowded backfield. If you ask me who's the best running back, like for my money, I'm probably gonna say Labrum. If you ask me who's going to be the starting running back, I'm going to say Cam Akers, though. And Patrick, like if I'm looking at how we used Wilder in 2013, I don't care what anybody says. In the third quarter, when it's 105 degrees on the field, and I'm a linebacker, I have to play every snap, or I'm playing 50% of the snaps, and I see Patrick full speed running at me at 230 pounds, and he ain't tiptoeing. I mean, I got to make some career decisions. And that's kind of how James Wilder Jr. Attacked the 2013 season, and he was able to get a lot of stats that way because you've got a fresh running back coming at guys who have been playing the entire game. And if you played the game at that level, that does come into effect and come into play. I mean, fatigue, as my high school coach used to say, fatigue makes a coward of us all.
All right, folks, here's the deal. You go to Twitter and you follow James at Big Game James 36 and track everything that he's doing on Gridiron Now and also his podcast, Sports Den Live. And if you're not going to fool around for the college football season, but you want it straight and you want what makes sense on the field and what a player perspective is, then you go to, again, Twitter and track all of James' comments there, and you get the feed, obviously, to his articles as well. Big Game James 36, and hopefully I could say the same for myself in regards to college football coverage from a different angle, but hopefully logical and makes sense. And we've got it all covered with the best bloggers, broadcasters, and writers in the nation, and some analysis from myself as well. So please like, comment, and subscribe. That keeps us going. We've got some links down in the description section. What that is, those are links to Amazon. You don't have to buy the products. You just use those links to go into Amazon. You shop and you do what you will, but that helps us out as well. And join our mailing list. So you go to MarkRogersTV at Gmail, send me an email there with your name, and we will start sending our mailing list out the first week of the college football season with my perspective on what's going on around college football. All right, James, we appreciate it. Hopefully some people are finding both of us, but especially you with football season coming, because there is a whole lot of silliness on the internet and online on YouTube talking football and people that just ramble on forever and don't have a whole lot to say, but you bring it each and every time.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
All right, James.
We got a couple people. Somebody just shouted us out on Twitter. That was dope. I gotta make sure I gotta do this more. I like doing your show. It makes me feel like I'm actually a professional.
Well, I appreciate that. We've been a professional in the past, and I'm giving it another shot here. But we're trying to build something here. So with guys like James on board and supporting me, that's a huge help. We'll say that. And we're talking James' second favorite team, or maybe his third favorite team if you include the Gators, coming up at 9 o'clock. Miami football talk with the wholesome one, Brandon Holloway.
Nothing wrong with Miami, man. Like I said, they got us. We got they're our second home stadium down there, Seminole Hard Rock. We haven't lost since I don't even remember, forever.
Yeah.
Hopefully we won't break that streak this year. We got to get the streak started back, but.
Yeah, it's not a streak yet. It's just one. So it's not a streak the negative way. So somebody asked on here a while back, and since you've lived down there your whole life, what is the reasonable split of fans down there between the three schools?
Depends on where you're at, and depends on when they're winning. Like when I came up in Florida, Miami. It was a lot of Miami and FSU fans, like especially in the 80s. The swagger, the energy of the U, Schnellenberger, and how those guys just approached it. Then Bobby Bowden, and then especially when he brought Mickey Andrews and that attitude, very violent, fast defense. People like to play. When Spurrier came into Florida in 90, it kind of started to shift, and obviously most states. The state school is the school that everybody relates to, but Florida kind of with Spurrier, carved their niche back into it. So I would say if you're in if you're in the Big Bend area Big Bend area, that's the Panhandle for the most part. That's mostly Florida State. And you'll see some Miami and Florida fans in there as well. FAMU, HBCU, shout out to them. Very big there. That's where they're at. Jacksonville is, I would say, 60, 30, 10. 60% Florida, 30% FSU. 10, I'm in Seminole purgatory here. Gainesville, middle of the state, mostly UF, and then south of I-4. You know, when Miami's rocking, Miami got it, but there's a good Florida State contingent down there in South Florida as well. Because a lot of players, that's where most of the players went to for a while. And it'll probably be like that again in 10 years as Florida has seemingly left South Florida, vacated from a recruiting standpoint. So you'll see Miami and FSU fans.
We enjoyed the talk with James Coleman from Gridiron Now. Great respect for him and what he's done on the field, and now in his little afterlife off the field of sorts, covering Florida State football in particular. So you got to join him at Big Game James 36 on Twitter. All right, James, we'll do this soon, and hopefully we'll just keep rolling the snowball and build up the momentum and get more people on here.
Yes, sir.
All right, 9 o'clock, everybody, Eastern time. We're talking Miami, and we'll see you then.